Good evening, friends and family. Welcome to our Midweek Connection. I am so grateful to be with you as always. We are a little bit, hunkered down here in Florida. We recognize and have respect for meteorologists and the work that they do in the world, and they've told us to be careful with this storm, although I really feel like, and as I've shared all throughout today, and we'll even share again later tonight in just a couple of hours, a meditation where we're calling for calm and calling for peace and stillness in spite of what has been forecast. I believe that forecasting, we have come a long ways with our technology as human beings, but I still also believe in the power of our energy and what we put our energy toward. And I'm really, maybe I'm just a rebel, but I'm refusing to put my energy toward this storm being anything more than just dropping some water and giving us some wind, maybe cooling temperatures off a little bit. Although I do understand that a lot of damage has been done to the earth. We've really done quite a bit of depletion to the planet over the last many years in the name of convenience. And so in some ways, the universe is correcting itself, and this is a part of that correction. But I'm putting my energy toward this thing being really calm in comparison to what has been announced. But we're still taking the precautions. We do still live in a human world, and I want to honor that and respect that. So I told you last week that I wanted to start a series on Wednesdays for Midweek Connection that does support our current study in Spirit Expressing. So we're in the Spirit Expressing season, and what we do at First Unity, at least, is that we have a book group study, and we have multiple groups going with a lot of people attending this year. And we're looking at Wayne Dyer's book, The Power of Awakening. And so since we were talking about awakening, I wanted to look at some practical things around awakening. I wanted to look at a practical guide to authentic spiritual awakening. And last week we talked about the question, what is spiritual awakening? And this week I wanted to deal with this because I wanted to deal with this in increments. I want to look at spirituality and enlightenment and sort of finding clarity about the two, because they are not necessarily the same. In fact, they're not the same. Just because someone has a spiritual practice or a particular bend towards some kind of spiritual principles doesn't necessarily mean that they have experienced awakening. And I want us to really kind of take a look at those things today. A lot of confusion surrounds spiritual awakening. And that really comes from probably a lack of clear communication on what it really means to be spiritually awake, to have a spiritual awakening. I think it's important for us to realize that you can be spiritual without experiencing a state of enlightenment. You can be religious and not ever experience spiritual enlightenment. And let's be clear about a common misconception. Enlightenment isn't necessarily a dramatic event that is filled with bright lights and angels singing the Hallelujah chorus or something like that. That's not necessarily what enlightenment is either. In fact, it's something that already exists within us. I've said this to you before. It just needs to be recognized and fully embraced, acknowledged. To acknowledge it and to embrace it allows it to come forward and start to really become active in our life. Within you is enlightenment already. The luminosity, the light of God, the light of pure presence, of source, is within you already. And it doesn't have to be some kind of big cataclysmic or even some kind of a dramatic event where, again, there's bright lights and angels singing. We hear about an enlightening story with St. Paul in the Christian Bible where he's on the road to Damascus, and he is in the process of carrying out what he believes to be a holy war against people he believes to be unholy. And so, and while he's on that journey to actually imprison Christians, it says that there was a bright light that shined down from heaven, and he fell off of his horse, and he was blinded by the light. The metaphor there is that sometimes there will be a blinding of our eyesight so that we can open up our insight. I've used this before to talk about the difference between being able to see with the physical eyes and being able to see, perceive with the third eye are completely different things. Because what we're seeing in this world is really an illusion. It's a projection of the human agreement. Even the way we do economy, government, war, peace, the way we do religion, the way we do relationships, the way we do identifying even with our own human sexuality and sensuality is a construct that we've agreed on. We've sort of made a contract as society and made an agreement that we're going to do life this way. The moment that a critical mass group of people decide to do life differently, it will shift in the cosmos because it's about the power that we all possess as creative beings to start using our creativity towards something greater. This is one of the reasons that preachers, spiritual leaders, and spiritual teachers, gurus, the list goes on and on and on, are important because they are individuals who are attempting to have a foot in the invisible and in the visible at the same time, attempting to float back and forth between the two so that we don't get absolutely and totally caught up in these false identities that we call our bodies and our personalities and our ways of showing up. But someone can have a spiritual practice, even meditation, prayer, vision, life visioning, go into church, being a part of spiritual community, and not ever experience spiritual awakening. So there's a difference between spirituality and enlightenment in terms of awakening. Ken Wilber, who's an author of many really great writings, wrote about this in his book titled Sociable God. And in that book, he actually presents 9 different perspectives on the difference even between spirit and spirituality. And yes, the two concepts are distinct. They're different. Spirit refers to the supreme source, the energy behind all of creation, the creator itself. Spirituality, on the other hand, is about feeling connected to something greater than just our own self and sort of seeking meaning in life. And this is one of the reasons I say somebody can be spiritual and never experience spiritual enlightenment or spiritual awakening, because you are maybe looking for something outside of you, something that's bigger than you, but you may not be, and I say something outside of you, what I mean, something greater than just yourself, and you're seeking meaning in life, but may never reach that place where you feel a complete and total harmony with the divine that is within you. Many people associate spirituality closely with religion, but I've personally found in my own life, I have found that the connecting of those two can lead to tremendous misunderstanding. I know some very religious people who have no idea what spirit is. Well, let me rephrase. They have ideas and concepts about what spirit is, but it's literally confined to a religious dogma or doctrine or a particular ideal or philosophy. And it's not even remotely spiritual. It's very religious, but not spiritual. Some of you right now can probably think of somebody who is steeped in religion, but they have no sense of connection with everything or with everyone. They really don't have any sense of meaning of life. In fact, their entire meaning of life is dedicated to a holy book or a collection of holy books, or a name for God. They actually are more concerned about the name of God than they are the character of God. I've said this before, in many ways, the Christian church, at least in the United States, has become more concerned about and intrigued by the name of Jesus than the nature with which Jesus showed up. And Jesus didn't say, call on my name. Jesus said, follow me, and I'll make you to become fishers of men. Jesus said, take up your cross and follow me. And everybody has their own cross to bear in this human experience and expression. And Many of us have never even remotely come close to taking up our cross and following Jesus. If people did follow the teachings of Jesus, if people followed the principles of Jesus, our world would be a much better place to live in. But I go back to there's a difference between religion and spirituality. To put it simply, we can think of spirituality as a quality that goes beyond our physical existence. Spirituality is tapping into the invisible and indivisible one divine mind versus religion that taps into a set of beliefs. I'll put it this way. Spirituality is in the realm of knowing, sort of that intimate relationship with spirit, and religion is in the realm of belief. They're really two entirely different things. Now, when we talk about enlightenment, the term can mean really different things to different people in this life. Often it's associated with some kind of an intellectual understanding. In other words, you can develop an enlightened mind through dedicating yourself to spiritual concepts or the study of spiritual concepts. You can become a student of Buddhism, a student of Hinduism, the Vedas, the Sutras. You can become a student of the Bhagavad Gita. You can become a student of the Quran, the Bible. The Torah, the Talmud. You can become a student of those, and as a result, people will think because you can say certain things that you have reached a place of enlightenment. Now, you could call that an enlightened mind, and maybe it is an enlightened mind, but I still don't know that the spirit is awake just because there's a spiritual concept that's been memorized. What I want to do more than memorize scripture or memorize principle is I want to live from the spirit of the ultimate principle, the supreme, the superior, the all-knowing source that dwells within me. However, having a kind of intellectual insight doesn't necessarily mean someone is spiritually or even emotionally awake. It's absolutely possible to hold a lot of beliefs, to have a lot of knowledge, without ever reaching into that deeper state of conscious awareness, in that place where we truly make conscious contact with our inner source and that life energy. I'm speaking to this because when we're talking about the power of awakening, some people think that we're returning to simplistic, elementary things. I've even heard the statement that Dr. Wayne Dyer's book is very elementary and we have somehow graduated past it. I find that very interesting because when someone is living in an enlightened state, they start to realize that there's nothing that you graduate past. In fact, they start to celebrate any of those things that you would consider to be basic or first steps of spiritual practice because you realize there's only a few. There's not much more to it than that. It's a matter of embodying, fully embracing and embodying these truths, and it makes you deeply appreciative for those entry-level things that you realize are not really entry-level. They're just founding principles. And so when we are living more of an intellectual awareness of spiritual principles or religious principles, we may still not have connected yet with the source and that life energy that's within us. We may still not have made conscious contact and become fully aware to the point that we can fully embody that source presence that's within us. So in essence, to me, spirituality and enlightenment are really deeply personal journeys. Only you can know where you've come to in your personal journey. But I can tell you that there are things that will be noticed about your life the more you embrace the higher self, the divine mind. Your attitude will begin to shift about society and about life and about activities. You will get to the place where you are so engaged in your spiritual awareness that fear no longer holds sway over you, that doubts and limitations no longer seem so daunting anymore, that your fears will be transmuted into fuel, and it'll be fuel for your faith, and that you'll graduate past these ideas of limitation and lack and confusion and worry and doubt and anxiety. You start to live at a high level of peace. See, the thing is that it's a personal journey. Understanding spiritual principles is your own right. And understanding that that both spirituality and enlightenment are personal journeys is important to help you navigate the path more clearly and more authentically, so that you're not living someone else's idea of what enlightenment or what spirituality really is. And you're able to take those principles that are shared with you, even the ones I'm sharing with you right now. You're able to take them and say, okay, I can utilize these to sort of try to feel my own way through it. But I can tell you all day long, you can have this same message on all day long, on repeat, on a loop. And if you really never make that contact yourself, if there's not a desire in you to make that conscious contact with that pure presence that's within you, you'll just have a head full of knowledge, but not have a life full of experience. And I think it's time for us to move past explanation and into the realm of experience, past words and knowledge and into the realm of deep knowing and wisdom. So in closing for this evening, I want to remind you that when we're talking about spirituality and enlightenment, there's a confusion about spiritual awakening that often stems from really just unclear communication. That spirituality can exist without the experience of enlightenment. Somebody can have an ongoing spiritual practice and never reach that enlightenment stage. Enlightenment is not a dramatic event necessarily. It can be. It's a state of existence. It's a state of existence within everyone. It's already within you. It's a matter of allowing it to come forward. Remember that there's a difference between spirit and spirituality. There's multiple differences. Spirit refers to the supreme source, that energy behind all of creation, while spirituality involves feeling connected to something greater, to the greater one, that's what I would call it. And spirituality is a lot of times mistakenly associated with religion. It's not the same thing. It transcends. Spirituality is the understanding that we can transcend, that we already have transcended physical existence. That I realize I am not my body. My body is a part of this journey, but the true me is eternal and connected irrevocably to the eternal one. Enlightenment can have different meanings to different people. And again, it's often for a lot of people linked to intellectual understanding. And that could be the case with certain things. To be enlightened about technology, you may have an intellectual understanding of something. But to have a full experience and expression of spirit, that really is more in the surrender, not in the knowledge, but in the wisdom. And then developing an enlightened mind through study does not guarantee that you're going to be spiritually awake or emotionally aware. And let me just point this out and try to drive this home. There's a lot to learn from Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, from Ernest Holmes, from all of the great writers, from Michael Beckwith, from Eckhart Tolle, from Deepak Chopra, from Carlton Pearson, from D.E. Paulk, from Wayne Dyer, from so many of these wonderful, great teachers. Maya Angelou, I love Maya Angelou, and Mother Teresa, and all of these great teachers, Mooji. And you can learn intellectually all of these principles and never reach the place where you actually have an awakened self and soul and an awakened emotional awareness. You can still be disconnected and know all of this stuff. It's not just about study so that you can memorize. It's about really, here it is, it's not about memorization of material. It's about remembering who you are before material, knowing your true self. It is possible to possess knowledge without achieving a deeper connection with that inner life energy that you have within you. And lastly, spirituality and enlightenment are personal journeys. And it requires an individual to understand the difference and understand that it's personal in order to have an authentic navigation through this process of waking up. My prayer for you is that you will have such a meaningful and authentic awakening that all of this will start to become sight to you, insight, that you will awaken to it so much that your true self will come so forward to the forefront of your existence that even the people who are around you, to have been the closest to you, may not even recognize you anymore, but that you will be in such a realm of peace and stillness. And you may at times feel awkward, may even feel alone and that's understandable because I know that feeling and others have known that feeling. I don't wish for you to feel alone, and I don't wish for the journey to be hard for you, but I do wish for you beyond really anything that you would fully awaken to your true self so that the unfolding of your divine nature can be completed in this life cycle and life journey. So as we go through this process, once again, we're hopefully learning some practical things about authentic spiritual awakening. Last week it was, what is spiritual awakening? What is it? And again, I shared with you just my personal opinion. And this week I share with you my personal opinion around spirituality and enlightenment and how to find clarity with both of those. Next week we're going to look at spiritual awakening versus psychic awakening. Ooh, that should get interesting. And what it all might mean. All right, my friends, I appreciate you hanging out with me this evening. And I encourage you to consider, if you just, listen, you don't have to be in facing a physical storm, such as been forecast for Florida and for parts of Alabama and Georgia. You may be facing an emotional storm. Either way, this peace meditation might be just fitting for you. And it's going to happen again at 9 p.m. this evening. And then tomorrow there will be multiple opportunities to join in that same peaceful meditation. And I encourage you to consider taking advantage of that. All right, my friends, I hear the music getting started, so I'm going to get up out of here now. And I'm going to invite you to give. Given the offering today, the ways to give will be on the screen on the way out. Now go and make it a great evening because you can.